when you lose it. One of the most meaningful moments in ministry for me happened on October 11th, 2013. I was installed that evening as the pastor of Mount Calvary Baptist Church in New Iberia, Louisiana. The preacher for that evening was Reverend Dr. Samuel Talbert, who's now president of National Baptist Convention. And Dr. Talbert preached from this very text that I just read into your hearing. And his sermon subject that night was, "Don't lose your cutting edge." And Dr. Talbert, as a seasoned senior minister, shared with me as a young upcoming preacher to be careful how I steward the gifts of God that God had graciously granted to me. He pictured this axe head that fell into the water as ministry effectiveness. And he shared with me to be careful how I steward what God had given to me, because it was possible to lose your cutting edge. And I remember sitting there on the front row that evening in a packed gathering, family and friends all around me, the church looking on with great anticipation of what will unfold of my ministry there. And I remember sitting there with all of the sincerity, with all of the desire and passion, saying to myself, within myself, I will never lose my cutting edge. I will be careful how I steward the gifts of God in my life, and I will never lose my cutting edge. When I look back at that 25-year-old young brother, young, eager, energetic, wild but foolish young man, I can say to him now, pressing upon 40, that no matter how careful you are with and about your life and the gifts of God in your life, there will be some times when you lose it. I stand here this morning, open and exposed before this wonderful congregation, to share with you that there have been some times when I've lost it. You ought not leave me up here by myself, because I believe all of us can say of a truth, preacher, there have been some seasons in my life when no matter how faithful I've tried to be, no matter how consistent or committed I've tried to give myself to the gifts of God in my life, there have just been some times when I lost it. When we come to 2 Kings chapter 6, we discover now that Prophet Elisha is overseeing a community of young upcoming prophets. It's called the School of the Prophets. It's where young men would go to sit and learn the art of prophetic imagination. They would go to be shaped and shepherded by a seasoned veteran prophet to teach them the role of prophetic witness. And now these young prophets have run out of space in their living quarters. They go to Prophet Elisha to request the opportunity to go to the Straits of the Jordan to cut down trees that they may go and build more room. And as they go down to Jordan, these men, every one of them, are engaged in the work of trying to cut down trees to improve their living situation. Everybody's got a tree. Everybody's at work giving their best efforts to improve their living situation. And there is a young nameless prophet who is at work doing his best to make his contribution to the work of the community. And would you know it, that while he is working, things fall apart on him. His axe head of effectiveness falls off of the axe handle, falls into the water, and all he can do is lament over his loss. He cries out in this painful reality, "Alas, master, for it was borrowed." That word, alas, master, suggests to us that sometimes all you can do is cry about the pain of the loss that you've experienced. That word, alas, is really an archaic word that is no longer in common use. But that word, alas, literally means that you have a broken heart. When one would cry out, alas, they would be expressing a deep anguish of heart and soul, crying out in desperation to express that there are some things in life that you just got to cry about. Sometimes you got to stop trying to be so macho and so tough and so strong and tell the truth. I had it, I lost it, and it hurts. He cries out, "Alas, master," not just because he lost it, but he cries out, "Alas, master," because what he lost wasn't his to lose. What he lost was borrowed. That is, it belonged to somebody else, and he didn't have enough resources to pay back out of what was lost. And oh, can I say to some child of God in this room this morning, that all of us who have lived this human situation trying to live a spiritual existence know something about losing our effectiveness. I mean, this man was given his best to work out the ministry of community. He was given his best to cut down his tree to make his contribution, and all of a sudden, his axe head falls off, falls down into the water, and all he can do is cry over the loss. Sometimes, church, when you lose something you love, it's all right to cry about it. It's all right to tell the truth about how you feel about your loss, because we've got good biblical witnesses who can testify that no matter how great you are in one scene of your life, losing your cutting edge is always possible. King Saul was the king of Israel. He was on the throne as the commander-in-chief of Israel's army. But King Saul lost his cutting edge of spiritual effectiveness, and God rejected him because he had rejected God. You remember Samson, that great strong man of physical supernatural empowerment. Samson was so strong that he would defeat the Philistines while holding something else in his offhand. But one day, Samson decided to go in the wrong direction, hook up with the wrong company, and the next thing we know, that Samson lost his supernatural empowerment. He still had the same physical physique, he still had the muscles, but he ended up blind, bound, and bald because he lost his cutting edge of supernatural empowerment. Israel lost their cutting edge of the presence of God. They had gone out in their own strength and might in battle, but one day the Ark of the Covenant was stolen. And when the Ark of the Covenant was stolen, they lived under the banner of Ichabod, which meant the glory of God has departed. And the people of God who were marked out as the covenant children of God end up losing their cutting edge. And God's word for somebody in this church this morning is, don't get so proud of yourself, so puffed up and pompous and arrogance, because you are a just right candidate to lose your cutting edge even when you're doing the right thing for the right reasons. And sometimes when you lose it, church, you just got to cry out and tell somebody else about it. He's got a painful reality, because loss hurts. Loss will make you cry. Loss will break your heart. Loss will disappoint your expectations. Queen Elizabeth II said that grief is the price you pay for losing something that you've lost. And church, I believe I'm talking to somebody here this morning who can say, preacher, I know what you're talking about, because somewhere along the way, I've lost my joy. Somewhere along the way, I've lost my strength. I've lost my spiritual passion. Somewhere along the way, I've lost my mind. I've lost my family. I've lost some loved ones. I've lost some opportunities. I've lost some times. And there are some times when even you feel like you lost yourself. And you got to cry out, alas, master, I lost what was loaned. But not only that, is there a painful reality. But wherever there is a painful reality, there ought to be a prophetic response. Don't be so tough that you try to suffer through the pain of loss all by yourself. Talking about, I don't need nobody, and it is what it is, and I just lost it. I ain't the first one to lose it. I ain't the last one to lose it. Child of God, sometimes you got to humble yourself and invite some people into your life who's got a heavenly connection. Because sometimes inviting the right people into your life can be the difference between breakdown and breakthrough. Before they went down to the straits of Jordan, somebody had the presence of mind enough to say, before we do this work, we need to make sure that the man of God, Elisha, is with us. And it's good that when Elisha goes down there, he's present even when they don't need him. So when they do need him, they can call him up and tell him what they're going through. You don't need a whole crew of people in your life. But if you can get the one somebody to be with you when life falls apart, they'll give you what you need while you're going through it. Can I tell you, church, you ought to praise God for spiritual connections and spiritual friendships and spiritual relationships, because there are some people in your life who are not trying to get anything from you, but are trying to give something to you, and that is a connection with God. Thank God this morning for a true prophetic witness, because a true prophetic witness is one who gives us a truthful perspective, but also seek supernatural solutions. A true prophet is not one to tell you what you want to hear, or to tell you happy, feel-good lies instead of the truth. No, a prophet is not like these phony prophets that you see on Facebook and YouTube, these fortune prophets. These prophets who tell you that in 3 days you're going to get a miracle, and in 5 days you're going to get a breakthrough, and in 6 days you're going to turn it around. No, that is not prophetic, that's pathetic. But a true prophet is one who in the midst of what you're going through can give you an honest assessment of what you're going through, and to invite God to show up and do something about it. So when this young nameless prophet starts talking to Elisha, saying, Master, I lost what was borrowed, Elisha starts talking back to him. And Elisha says, show me where you lost it. I love that. The man of God who has the responsibility to give this young student prophet an honest assessment about his situation and invite supernatural solutions into his situation, ask him, show me where you lost it. And church, sometimes location matters to loss. Sometimes where you lost is more important than what you lost, because location can be the place of recovery. Location can be the place where you can get back what you lost. Stop running from the reality of your loss in your life and face the fact that sometimes you've got to go back to the place where you lost so that you can trace it in order to face it so that God can erase it. Sometimes you've got to trace it in order to face it so that God can erase it. Stop running from the trauma you experienced as a child because somebody broke your heart when you were 6 or 7 years old, and you've been living your entire life unable to love anybody else because somebody broke your heart years ago. Stop running from the trauma. Stop running from the pain and go back and trace it so you can face it, so that God can erase it, so that you can get back into the purposes for which God has called you. Show me the place where you lost it. Go back to the place of your brokenness. Go back to the place of your pain. Not to feel sorry for yourself, but to go there with authority and power to name before heaven, this is what I lost, and this is where I lost it, and I've moved on physically, but psychologically, I'm still in the same place of my brokenness after all these years. And there ought to come a time in your life when you ought to be tired of being sick and tired, and sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm tired of beating myself up. I'm tired of running from people's opinions. I'm tired of being afraid that somebody's going to find out that I'm broken. Yes, I'm broken. My heart is broken. My spirit is broken. My mind is broken, and I'm no longer running from brokenness. I'm going to trace it so I can face it so that God can erase it. Show me where you lost it. Not only does the prophet give us the right perspective, but the prophet invites supernatural solutions, because there are some things that human agency can't do anything about. The man of God determines that we need a miracle. And when you need a miracle, there's only one option. You may have many options about where you're going to eat today. You may have many options about where you're going to work next year. But when you need a miracle, there's only one source. So Elisha does something strange because he knows how to get in touch with heaven. He cuts down a piece of wood and he throws that piece of wood against the backdrop of an impossible situation. And the next thing we know is the iron axe head that had sunk down to the bottom of muddy Jordan floated up to the top, And the man of God tells the young prophet to reach in and grab it. And he did so. Now, I looked this up, church. The atomic properties of iron. The atomic properties of iron is 26 electrons, 26 protons, and 30 neutrons. I don't know any of what that means. All that means is that if you put iron in water, it's going to the bottom. And if you're going to get that iron from the bottom of the water, God is going to have to do it. And church, in this instance, what we discover is that when he threw this piece of wood against the backdrop of this impossible situation, some way, somehow, God made it float. King James said, and the iron did swim. That whenever you got painful realities, whenever there is a prophetic response, there will be a praise report. And here is the praise report. The iron did swim. And science can explain many things. Science can explain the laws of thermodynamics. Science can explain the universe and all of the galactic superclusters down to the subatomic particles. But one thing science cannot explain is the wonder of God. And I wonder, is there anybody here who could testify, preacher, when I look through the scenes of my life, I've had some brokenness, I've had some disappointments, I've even had some great losses, but when I look around and think things over, all of my good days outweigh my bad days, so I won't complain. And so what I'm going to do in the meantime, church, is I'm not going to wait until the battle is over. I'm going to shout right now because I've got too much evidence about what God is able to do. Won't he make a way? Won't he turn it around? Won't he reverse it? Won't he fix it? Won't he solve it? Won't he change it? You ought to help me preach to somebody. Shake them and wake them up and tell them that problem that I had, I just couldn't seem to solve. I tried and I kept getting deeper involved. But when I turned it over to the Lord and stopped worrying about it, the Lord worked it out. He dried those tears. He calmed my anxiety. He resolved my depression. Won't he do it? I said, won't he do it? There's a praise report. Nobody could do it but God. A few days ago, I was at my sister's house over in Spring. And I was washing dishes at my sister's house because she don't like washing dishes. So I washed my sister's dishes. As my normal custom is, I placed my cell phone on the window above the sink, washing my sister's dishes, mindlessly listening to an audiobook. And all of a sudden, I noticed that I had a message on my phone. And so while I'm washing dishes, curious about the message on my phone, I decided to turn the water off, wipe my hands swiftly, to open my lock screen to retrieve the message. The problem was I didn't thoroughly wash all the water off my hand. And there on the lock screen was some of the leftover water that was still on my hand. And so I tried to open the lock screen, but the water prevented me from opening the screen. I tried to press harder to open the screen, but the water prevented me from opening the screen. I even tried to wipe off the water that I put on the screen, but the screen still would not open. I tried harder, I pressed harder, I wiped the water off, but the screen would not open. And then it dawned on me, you may not be able to do it with your hands, but you have face recognition technology that all you got to do is pick up the phone that is your problem for now and look at the phone with your face. And when I put my face in the problem, the phone immediately opened. It struck me that what I couldn't do with my hands, just one look in the right direction made all the difference. Come see, child of God, I dare you to stop trying to fix it with your hands and take a look in the right direction. I dare you to stop worrying about the craziness in your life and lift your eyes to the hills from whence cometh your help, because all of your help comes from the Lord. Is there anybody here who knows that when you look to the Lord, you look to somebody who is able to do exceeding abundantly and above all that you can ask or think or even imagine? I don't know how God did it. I don't know the details for how God worked it out. All I know is he's able to do it. Here is how I know he's able to do it. And I'm going to sit down, because this story is not the last time God threw in a piece of wood against the backdrop of an impossible situation. This text is a microcosm of the macrocosm. It's a snapshot of a bigger picture, because this is not the last time God threw in a piece of wood against the backdrop of an impossible situation. One Friday on a hill called Calvary, God threw in a piece of wood against the backdrop of my impossible situation. Can I testify? I was sinking deep in sin, far from the peaceful shores, very deeply stained within, sinking to rise no more. But the master of the sea heard my despairing cry, and from the waters he lifted me. Now saved am I. Love lifted me. Are y'all gonna help me close this morning? Love lifted me when nothing else could help. Love lifted me. I can't explain how God worked it out. All I can tell you is that God is able to work it out. So no matter what you're going through, there isn't anything too hard for my God. No matter how deep your pain may be, no matter how low the impossibility in your life may be, we serve a God who can reach way down into the brokenness of your life, and God is able to turn it around. Is there anybody here who knows he is an incredible God? And an incredible God is worthy of incredible praise. When I think about the goodness of the Lord, and when I think about all that the Lord has done for me, I've got to lift my hands and lift my voice and testify, God can do it. God can work it out. God can turn it around. Is there anybody here who's going to help me close here and testify? I've had some losses. I've had some disappointments. I've had many tears and sorrows. I've had questions about tomorrow. There have been times in my life when I didn't know right from wrong. But in every situation, God gave blessed consolation that my trials only come to make me strong. So I thank God for my mountains. I thank God for my valleys. I thank him for the storms he brought me through. If I never had a problem, how would I know God can solve them? How would I know what faith in his word can do? So through all of the disappointments, through all of the pain, through all of the betrayal, through all of the sicknesses, through all of the diseases, through all of the cancer diagnosis, through all of the racism, through all of the ostracism, through all of the knockdowns and the kickdowns and the letdowns, I've learned to trust in Jesus. I've learned to trust in God. Is there anybody around Lily Grove who can testify? I've lost it, I've lamented, but I thank God for the lifting. And since I've been lifted, I'm going to do what Elisha said. Elisha said to the young man of God, he said, now God lifted it, but you've got to lean in and pick it up. Is there anybody here who made up their minds today is the last day I'm going to feel sorry for myself, but today I've made up my mind. I'm going to reach in. I'm getting my joy back. I'm getting my peace back. I'm getting my strength back. I'm getting my voice back. I'm getting my song back. And if you get an axe head out from the water, don't put it on the shelf and make a trophy out of it. If you get an axe head out of the water, put it back on the axe handle and swing on. Anybody here can testify, I'm getting my swing back. I lost it, but I'm getting my swing back. I'm getting my shout back. I'm getting my praise back. I'm getting my hallelujah back. This is the day that the Lord has made. I shall rejoice and be glad in it. I don't feel no ways tired. Come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me. Nobody told me the road would be easy. I've had some ups. I've had some downs. I've had some losses, but I got a feeling. Are y'all gonna help me close here? Grab your neighbor, encourage your neighbor, and tell them, neighbor, I got a feeling. I got a feeling. I got a feeling. I got a feeling. Everything is going to be all right. If you know it's all right, shout until it gets better. Shout until he work it out. Shout until he turn it around. Won't he do it? Won't he do it? Shout yeah! Shout yeah! I know he's all right. I know he's all right.